Make sure you're taking good care of yourself, and if you need to take time out to reset, make sure you do that. Don't be afraid to put your hand up, because there is no problems with that. I think there's a community here of people generally, or the majority, that doesn't want to see anybody get hurt or fail. And we really want to develop that community where there is a high level of care for another human being, as super important to us here at Smith & Sons and Business for Builders. How old are you going to be before you start to experience life like you want it? I want to tell you right now, whether you like it or not, there is a better way to do business. Hi everyone, welcome to the Business for Builders podcast. My name is Max Peterson. I'm the CEO at Smith & Sons Remodeling Experts Canada, and I'm going to try and drop a few insights that I've been thinking about, and really want to add some value to you and your business, not just your business, but you as well. So normal housekeeping, like, subscribe, hit the bell, share it if you know someone that might be able to use this information. And be sure to get in contact with me if you'd like, Max at Business for Builders. That email will be in the bio, no doubt. Also, you can text us on 250-241-8866. So we're good to go. All right. So today, you know what? I focus a lot on, operations. I'm really hot, or have been hot, certainly for the last 6 months, on your financial capability and your financial analytic capability. Because I just think that's, we really got to double down on, even though those things maybe don't get into our attention too often, the reason for collapse of building companies. And I know there's a big company in Australia right now that's getting a government bailout, I think, and they're a massive organisation. They build something like 2,500 homes a year. Everything from those massive operations right down to one-man bands that can struggle to make ends meet. And so, I'm big on, systems and checklists, and you hear me talk about that all the time. Systemize the shit out of everything, and really pay attention to the detail. What I'm going to quickly touch on today, I'm going to talk about really you as a human being. And I think sometimes we overlook the importance of maintaining our own personal internal well-being. I think we can spend a lot of time focusing on, operational standards or standard operating procedures, checklists and processes and things like that. And I talk about those things fairly often. What I don't talk about a lot of the time is to be able to, insulate yourself or protect yourself as the operator. And so no, we don't get taught much about finances or business systems or business development, as a tradie. I didn't do an apprenticeship between 89 and 93. I didn't get really any exposure to that. Later on, when I went to get a builder's license, they were doubling down a little bit on, financial management and things like that. Really, which, what they've never really touched on, I would say, at all is your own, let's call it, similar to your physical wellness, but your mental wellness. Make sure you're understanding your emotions and things like that, because ultimately, if you're not happy with yourself internally, it really does or will affect your ability to operate at the highest level as a business owner. And so, there's really three parts to it. To me, I think that what we brush over is the fact that as we go through our life as a general contractor, there are certain things, and I look back on my career and I probably made more mistakes than I did, do things right. I probably made a lot of corrections off the back of those, let's call them failures. Some people say, well, I either win or I learn. And so what they're saying is, well, I don't really lose. But if you listen to Gary Vee, he'll say, no, bro, you failed, And I think the failure can be, we can take it as an indictment against our personality. And so I think it's important that we contextualize what's going on in our life, personally, sort of socially, and even from a business standpoint. And we've got to make sure that we don't blur the lines too much, because I think it's dangerous. I know me personally, if my shit's not in order at home, for whatever reason, whether it's with, any one of our, family members, whether it's my own family or whether it's my extended family or whatever, then what it does is it distracts me, and it really does, it really does get me down. And so when you're got to be a front man, like maybe I'm doing in this company, because I've got, 5 staff, I've got, 8 franchise general contractors. We've got a couple of guys coming on next month, actually this month. Happy November 1. Hope everyone had a good Halloween and you didn't get into too much candy last night. It sometimes can really rock your ability to perform, because it is very distracting and takes away from, you burn a lot of that energy, worrying about that sort of stuff. And so your concentration level's down, and, it can really take away from you. So, I think we've got to understand that the opportunity to learn is part of the thing. And so what I'm going to get at, really, I think the underlying message that I've got for you today is, you have to be able to disconnect what's happening externally from you as your personal self-worth. I think if you, like I said at the start there, I've probably failed more times. I've had to get assistance from, both my folks and even my in-laws at some point early on because of the errors that I made. And so, I think that you're not on your own if you think that you've made a bit of a friggin' mess of it. I think what you need to do, it becomes part of your story. And so, there's it's not it's not a fun time. It's not something that you enjoy, but it certainly is. It's a powerful part of your story if you embrace it as such. And so I don't want you to be reckless or irresponsible and go, oh, well, it doesn't matter. What we're saying is it's the opposite end. It's like we don't want to go and bury ourselves in a hole of disgust because we might have made a bad business call or a financial error, or there has to be some obviously accountability for that. There's no question about that. If you're the front guy or gal, then you've got to take responsibility for that. But what I really am urging, anybody that comes in contact with me about these kinds of things is we have to disconnect what happens externally to us, and we've got to. It cannot erode our sense of self-worth. It cannot reinforce the angle that we might accept it, that now we are worth less. Because I'm telling you, that's not going to help you in your overall run. And when we start talking about mental wellness and mental illness, that's I believe that's where it starts. Now, I'm certainly not a psychologist, so please don't go and get professional help or assistance if you need it, or even if you've got some questions or queries, please don't hit me up for that. I'm not a psychologist, but this is my one man's opinion on the way I see the world. And so, it's really important, because otherwise what can happen is it can be a very slippery slope. So certainly taking responsibility for certain things that you've done in your life, for sure. Use those situations as an opportunity to learn, for sure. And then the knock-on effect will be, and this is the next thing, the knock-on effect will be that it should be an opportunity where you can enlarge your capacity. So, I've got 6 kids and the oldest is 20. I'm 49 and my capacity to handle stress is a lot greater than my 20-year-old. And that's just the way it is. And that's because of obviously a time spent, for sure, but certainly my attitude towards those certain things where I may have cocked it up has certainly been a more of a positive one. And so I, for some reason, have never ever. It's certainly, it goes against me because I've maybe made a bad decision, but it's certainly not an indictment against my own self-worth. I think that anybody that thinks that they're perfect has probably got issues. They might lack a little bit of self-awareness. I think if we all were honest with ourselves, we've all cocked it up to a certain degree, and therefore, there's a lot of learning that each of us has to undertake if we're going to be better. And I think this is where it comes back to, my opinion is that we overestimate what we can achieve in 12 months and we underestimate what we can achieve in 10 years. And so we need to be patient with the whole learning process, because we are not robots, we're not machines. And so therefore, when we do make an error, there is an emotional destabilization, and we have to understand that it's going to take us a little while to get over that, and there might be even some of those times where you've got some remorse for a decision that you've made, or, you really can't believe that you made that bad decision, or whatever the case may be. And it will take you some time, because you are not a robot. There's an emotion that's wrapped up in it. And I think sometimes you've just got to hunker down and go, yes, I'm going to deal with it. Yes, I take responsibility for it, but no, I'm not going to let it attack my self-worth. That's not the point here. We're all humans. We're all doing our best. We all want to succeed. We all want to, maybe we want to help other people, and yet, we have a hard time keeping it out of the weeds ourselves. And so what we're talking about is throughout that process of recovery, let's call it, there is a process of capacity enlargement. And so, like I said, my 20-year-old versus, what stresses her out versus me as a 49-year-old, what stresses me out. I guess I can carry more weight because my capacity has not been enlarged. Now, don't get me wrong, just because you have been on the earth longer, that automatically allows you to have an enlarged capacity. That's not the truth. You can be a 50-year-old juvenile in your thought process, and that's what we're trying to do. So as a 20-year-old, or even before that, I would teach my kids that, good decisions, good outcomes, bad decisions, bad outcomes, because I know I couldn't be there, I can't be there all the time. They've just got to have an assessment process and understand that if they do look back and go, well, I made a bad decision and we got a bad outcome, that's just part of life. It's inevitable, because we're not going to run a perfect route all the time. We're never going to connect with perfection. It's an illusion. But we cannot take that personally to erode our own self-worth, because if we do that, we've got to separate those two. We've got to pull those two apart, because you are a human being. You are in a position where you probably got family. You're a part of a family, obviously, or some semblance of family. You are worth something to somebody. And because there's stresses on business, and I'm assuming that I'm either talking to business owners or I'm talking to those that want to get into business, we cannot have business pull down you as a human being. The priority in community is the human being. And so, if there is issues that are in your business that are affecting, this is why that disconnect has got to come. There's provisions written into commercial law that enable operators, in the event of a catastrophic financial failure within a business, to disconnect from that burden of debt. Okay. It's not a pleasant place to be, and we want to help our builders, whether they're part of the Smith & Sons group or not. We want to make sure that they understand that those provisions are built into the commercial law in business to enable them to, fight another day, if you like. And so we really want to concentrate on financial wellness, obviously your own personal wellness, obviously, and then, the operation of your business has got to be in good condition as well. But it's all around insulating yourself. So when we go into day 4 of our business development and strategic planning, training for our general contractors, there is one section there that we talk about that what really does present the opportunity for stress on the builder, and how do we insulate ourselves. We talk a lot about our clients having peace of mind and security, but you as a builder, your peace of mind and security is also important. And so, what is it that you're doing? You need to be aware of the things like, subcontractor delays, supply delays, deadlines, unreasonable clients. All these things are actually going to be burdensome on you as a general contractor, but you have to understand that it's business, it's not personal. And so what we have to do sometimes, classic example, and he probably won't be listening to this podcast anytime soon, but I'm not going to use his name. But anyway, he's chasing me up for he wanted a carpenter. And, he's sending me a message on Sunday morning. And me personally, I'm a motor racing fan. I'm kicking back. I'm watching some of this motor racing on Fox. And I don't want to be interrupted on a Sunday, my friend. This is me protecting my space. And he's fairly intense. He's sending me a message, and then he's saying, talk to me with a funny emoji, like it's friggin' funny to him. And I'm sitting there, borderline offended, wanting to just stick a friggin', sword in his neck, because I'm like, mate, you have no understanding or respect for my space. And then an hour later, there's another text message with a question mark, like I am not responding to him. This is what I'm talking about. And this guy I haven't spoken to for like 5-6 months. And he's just out of the blue going, I've got a job and I need a carpenter. Are you into it? Have you got a guy that wants to make hourly rate, blah, 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 cash, money, whatever? And so this is a Sunday. There is no filter. Now, I can't change him, but what I can do is I can change the way that I engage. So because I didn't respond to his messages, he then sent me another message going, what's your number? Like, this guy's intense. And so I didn't send him a number until about 8 o'clock on Monday morning. And literally within 30 minutes, he'd freaking called me. And I knew that if I gave him the number on Sunday, he'd try call me, because he just has. So we can't change what other people do to us, but what we can do is we can protect ourselves. And so, that's why it's super important that we have a really strong understanding that anything that happens in your life that might have a bit of a negative spin on it, that we don't really beat ourselves up too savage about that, but we make sure that we understand there's an opportunity to learn. Now, the flip side is you don't want to just get high on your own supply and think that you can't put a foot wrong, because the minute you do that, the chances of a failure heading your way is pretty is pretty good. I know that, in the 90s, I've read a couple of Donald Trump books, don't hold it against me, but he makes a comment in one of those books. He says that in the 90s, he got very complacent because he was winning. And it was a case of that he got high on his own supply, and he very nearly, went into he began to sort of experience some failure, and that's what shook him up and woke him up. And all of a sudden he's like, okay, so things can go wrong. So it's almost like we want to reach success, but we want to do it without, really, tripping over or making errors. And unfortunately, that's not the case. I've also got in the PowerPoint that I talked to my builders on Friday or on the last day of training, and that I make reference to Mount Everest and how that there's a lot of motivated people or there's a lot of motivated climbers that actually lie on that mountain that passed away on that mountain. And so, I think what we're trying to do in business is we're trying to climb Mount Everest, and we got to know there's just hardship that is going to be in front of us, and so we don't look at that as an inconvenience. We look at that as an opportunity to learn, and then the knock-on effect is that the more of that we are able to embrace, so too our capacity does enlarge to enable us to get better. And so one of my podcasts recently was higher the levels, bigger the devils, and that's what I'm getting at. So if you're going to go higher and you're going to face bigger devils, then what you're going to need is an enlarged capacity in order to handle those challenges. And I think when I look at some of the success stories in and around my own life as it relates to business owners, those individuals have gone from strength to strength. However, in between those two milestones, there's always been a bit of a valley moment where they've questioned their own ability, they've questioned their commitment, they've really asked themselves the question, do I really want to be in here doing this? And those are they're the soul-searching moments where you've got to be able to seriously reconcile what it is that you're doing and your purpose. Why are you here? Why are you doing this? And so, this just comes back to some personal analysis. Now, please don't get bogged and get the paralysis of analysis, because that's not going to help you. But what I think we need to do is really have a quick, do a little bit of a stock take, do a bit of an audit, and really ask yourself the question and look at the trend. And this is the way when we're talking to our guys about financials, we're always going to look at trend. You can have a bad month, but it's still trending upwards, okay? So the same for your own personal and your own emotional space. You can have a bad day or a bad month, but the trend is always upward. Now, if the trend is going downward, that's where you've got to start doing some serious, questioning around why do I continue to do this? Is your financial position, still trending downwards, which means inevitably if it keeps going the way it's going, there's going to be some failure. And so, you want to make sure that you're really determining in yourself that you need to be in that space, or maybe you should get out of being a business owner and go and work for someone and be their support, be their second in command or something like that. So you've really got to do some personal, some introspect, or really understanding who you are as a person. And so, disconnecting those external things really have to be, you have to be able to do that to insulate yourself, like my friend who was, beating my door down on a Sunday, and I wasn't playing the game because I don't feel like I owe him anything. And what's important to me is my own peace of mind and security. And it was my Sunday, and I was kicking back watching motorsport, and he wasn't about to interrupt that. And then, of course, by him doing what he did, it made it, I did give him not a mouthful, but I was a bit intense with him on the phone. And he said, why are you getting so worked up? I'm like, mate, I ain't getting worked up. You ain't seen nothing. And so, I think, guys and girls, as business operators, we need to make sure that we really are, in love with ourselves, and that we are not insecure, but that we are secure, but not arrogant. Remember what I talk about? We've got to have ego and humility in equal measures. I think because there's people around you that depend on you, that look up to you, that love you, that really want you to be successful. But the day-to-day struggle, the hand-to-hand combat that you and I go through, that's really hard for people to see into. I know my wife, she doesn't know half the stuff I deal with. And then occasionally I might go home with a bit of an attitude, or I might be a bit somber, and I might not want to chat about stuff, or whatever the case may be. But, at the end of the day, it's not her fault. So I try not to beat her up too much. But in saying that, she is definitely a good source of conversation as well, where, we've been together for a long time now. So, you've really got to find, I think you've got to surround yourself with good counsel. You need to probably, you become like the people you hang with, And I think that goes for times when I know I've got a network that's been developed, I guess, really unofficially over time. I've identified the humans that I can really go to with some of those situations that might require, where I might be asking for a, not a hand out, but a hand up. That's really what I would say to you guys and gals. And I know that it's, when we have that, if your ego and humility is not in equal measures, you're going to have a hard time putting your hand up saying, hey, I need help. And, I think it's, this is really, this feels different doing a podcast about this because it's not really, checklists and operations and things like that. But I think for us to be successful business operators and owners, we need to take stock and we need to understand and we need to listen to our intuition, both on a business standpoint, but also on a personal standpoint. I've had people sort of say to me they go away to reset and recharge and things like that. But for my personality, there's a part of me that enjoys the challenge of business. And so that's why I know that for me to do what I'm doing, it comes with a lot of challenge. But over a period of, decades, I suppose, and I'm certainly not done. I've got a good 25 years left in me. There's definitely been an enlargement or a capacity enlargement whereby, I can, balance and think of, sort of simultaneously different people, different tasks and things like that. And it's hard to just sit here and teach somebody that because I think I've really learned that over a period of years. I mean, I went to trade school right after I got out of school in grade 11, so I didn't graduate. And really have only done a few weekend courses as it relates to, construction and business and things like that. So I've not got a lot of technical credentials that I can really hang on the wall. What I really am doing is reading a lot of books and self-educating. I think that's where I've come from. And now my passion is to really help people succeed. And can I help everybody? No. I just focus on those that want help. And we really get stuck into it. So that's a little bit of a personal call out, really pay attention to your mental and emotional health. Ensure that you're looking at the challenging opportunities as an opportunity to learn something, really analyze what happened. And then, of course, in doing that, you actually will enlarge your capacity, which means you could become a bigger internal operator, which gives you a higher level of maturity. And I might have talked about in the last podcast where knowledge and wisdom is two different things. Knowledge is what you get from a book and you get a bit of an understanding of a concept. Wisdom is where you actually go through something in life where you might have used that knowledge, either used it well or not so well, and you've actually created understanding from that experience based on that knowledge. And so sometimes we don't even have the knowledge, we just have experiences. And that's why it can be a little bit elusive to go, why is this happening to me? What did I do? And one of my slides in that day 4 biz dev is, if you want to fail in life, just go and blame somebody else. It's just the most horrid thing. So as much as it might make you feel good in the short term, what you're doing is you're not learning from said opportunity and you are not enlarging your capacity, which means you're going to go round the mountain and you're going to stay the same. And I know that you don't want to stay the same. You want to become better. You want to make more money. You want to build a bigger business. You might want a little bit more notoriety for your successes, all those kinds of things. But I'm telling you, there but me I go. If you don't change internally, your ability to change the world will not be possible. It just won't happen. It won't happen on your watch. Somebody else will do that. Someone else will work harder on themselves internally, mentally and emotionally, as well as operationally, and they will be the ones that will be the standout, not you. So please, take stock, do the audit, protect yourself, separate those external things that really lean on you emotionally. Understand they don't determine your self-worth. Your security doesn't lay in what happens externally, but just make sure that you're focused on learning and growing, and I think your business life will be better. You will be a better business leader. You'll be a better spouse or spouse. Possibly your kids are going to respect you a little bit more. Those sorts of things. That's really what happens. So, look, that's about the long and the short. So, look, if you got anything any questions you got regarding construction business. I'm even happy to jam around maybe this subject a little bit, but look, all I can do is just talk to you as a friend, and if you really need to get some serious help, I'm going to recommend that. But feel free to email me, max@businessforbuilders.ca. like, follow, and subscribe, all that kind of stuff. And make sure you're taking good care of yourself. And if you need to take time out to reset, make sure you do that. And don't be afraid to put your hand up, because there is no problems with that. I think there's a community here of people generally, or the majority, that doesn't want to see anybody get hurt or fail. And we really want to develop that community where there is a high level of care for another human being, as super important to us here at Smith & Sons and Business for Builders. Have an awesome day. Go build a kick-ass business, and I will see you on the next episode. Cheers.